When I think of legendary games, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is one of the first titles that comes to mind. Whether it's the impact it had on the gaming industry, the way it evolved the GTA franchise, or its ability to produce an endless amount of memes, San Andreas has a legacy that very few games can match. A big part of why it has such staying power in the minds and hearts of fans is because the story and sheer amount of content included for a game released in 2004 is mind-boggling. San Andreas still has the most missions of any GTA game in franchise history with a little over 100, and with that volume, there is bound to be some disparity between the quality of missions. That being said, there are more good missions than bad, and today we will take a look at what I consider to be the top 10 missions in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. If somehow you had forgotten the betrayal of Grove Street families while running around the Badlands with Catalina, the mission photo opportunity quickly reminds you of those painful memories. CJ sees his childhood friend and Grove Street OG Ryder affiliating with the cocaine-dealing Loco Syndicate, and at once you are refocused as to why you've been robbing banks and racing cars to get money. With his new home base located in San Fierro, CJ decides to infiltrate the Syndicate through the pimp Jizzy B and use the information he gains through his lackey work to eliminate the people that have caused his family so much trouble. This plan comes to fruition over the course of several missions, with the best and most significant being Pier 69. Caesar and CJ meet up by the pier near Jizzy B's Pleasure Dome after learning of a meeting between Ryder and the Syndicate, and prepare, with the help of the Mountain Cloud Boys, to eliminate them both. The first part of the mission sees CJ taking out a bunch of San Fierro Rifa members who are watching guard on the rooftops, before ultimately pushing into the midst of the firefight to take down T-Bone Mendez. Soon after, Ryder attempts to make an escape via boat, but CJ is able to chase him down and finish him off for good. Having already killed Jizzy B in an earlier mission, this means that the only member of the Syndicate to escape is the mysterious leader, Mike Torino, who was tipped off by the dead San Fierro Rifa members. While this is a fairly straightforward mission, it has one of the best payoffs in the entire game. Both T-Bone Mendez, who literally held you at gunpoint missions earlier, and Ryder, who constantly berated CJ once he returned to Los Santos, are satisfying to take down in their own way. Ryder's death in particular is a cathartic experience, as it's the first real bit of revenge that CJ was able to exact for the double-crossing of Grove Street families. Even though Carl later laments having to kill his old friend, this is the first major win CJ has had since Sweet was locked in prison earlier in the game. The gameplay of Pier 69 is also fun, with the boat chase with Ryder standing out as one of San Fierro's defining moments. With that said, I appreciate that you actually have the ability to kill him in the water before the boat chase begins, as it can be damn near impossible to take him down if you don't have a weapon that can be used in a drive-by. Something I enjoy about this mission is how it feels like it's the first true joint operation between CJ, Caesar, and Woozy, which in and of itself is a satisfying payoff for all the hard work you did for the triads. Truthfully, even if the mission wasn't that fun to play, it'd still stand out for the impact it has due to Ryder's death, and as a result makes its way onto my list. Something I highly value, as you'll see later on this list, is when missions have some complexity to them. Two of the major problems a lot of the missions in San Andreas have is that they are either too simple or too short. In the beginning of the game it's forgivable, but as time goes on my expectations for a great mission only grows. It's why a mission with a satisfying payoff like High Noon, or a memorable but quick mission like Stowaway, can't make the cut for this list. Thankfully, Dam and Blast doesn't suffer from either of these common pitfalls, leading to a shining example of San Andreas' brilliance. What I appreciate most about Dam and Blast is how it incorporates multiple gameplay elements into its mission. Rather than simply driving yourself from point A to point B like many missions have you do, CJ instead travels to the airport where he uses a plane to fly overhead the Sherman Dam before parachuting down from above. Once landed, he then uses stealth to take out guards in order to infiltrate the dam's generator room where he'll plant the explosives. When inside, you can either continue your sneaking ways or go in guns blazing, so long as each generator ends up getting fitted with an explosive. After CJ has finished his objective, he's then cornered by various cop and SWAT teams on his way out, before channeling his inner James Bond and swan diving off the dam to escape. I love how despite the over-the-top nature of this mission's gameplay, it actually makes sense story-wise what CJ is doing. It's a play right out of an Ocean's movie to take out the power to the casino as a way to provide cover and cause confusion and panic during the heist. Additionally, I enjoy any mission that gives you the choice between gameplay options. It makes replaying the game more fun and actually helps failing the mission seem not so bad when you can try again with a different strategy that might work better for your style. It seems Grand Theft Auto as a franchise just understands how to create exciting and fun heist missions, which is exactly what we see here. Dam and Blast quality is part of why I consider the heist quest in San Andreas to be the best in the entire game, and while this mission deserves a spot, unsurprisingly, it's not the only heist mission on this list. One of the wonderful things San Andreas is able to do through its gameplay is mirror the progression of the story and CJ himself. As CJ gains power and influence, his missions become increasingly more dangerous and grand in scale. Up Up and Away captures this escalation perfectly, as the concept of the mission is no different from a task like robbing Uncle Sam at the beginning of the game, yet has far higher stakes. Both see you break into a military facility, steal something of value, and escape to a safe house. Granted, there's a big difference between stealing some guns from the National Guard and hijacking a sky crane, but that only serves to highlight the progression I'm talking about. It's a big part of what makes a mission like this so rewarding to complete, as well as what keeps San Andreas engaging even 70 plus missions into the game. With their preparations for the robbing of the Caligula Casino almost finished, CJ has to find a way to steal an armored van that will be essential to the success of the heist. At the suggestion of Zero, Carl makes his way to a military aviation fuel depot to steal a sky crane called the Leviathan. Upon arriving, he is attacked by a barrage of soldiers armed with assault rifles, having to fight his way from the ground all the way to the helipad where the Leviathan sits. After making his way to the rooftop, CJ is suddenly assaulted by 2 helicopters, forcing him to man a turret to take them down. After staving off the attack and gaining possession of the sky crane, CJ proceeds to locate the van they'll need for the heist, lift it into the air with a giant magnet, and bring it back to verdant meadows in the desert. Everything about this mission works so well that the only thing that holds it back from being higher on this list is a lack of emotional impact. In terms of gameplay, this may be the most fun in the entire game. You get a challenging firefight section in the fuel depot, a nice throwback to the Zero side quest with the minigun section, and a fun flying part in the Leviathan that makes you feel like a true thief. It's an ingenious concept, as once again they could have simply had CJ hijack the van similar to the police bikes in the previous mission, but instead we are treated to a unique mission that contributes to why San Andreas' heist set is the best in the game. Of all of CJ's partners throughout San Andreas, I'd say my favorite is Woozie Moo. After you are betrayed by Ryder and Big Smoke, you feel helpless and lost, which is why Woozie's immediate openness to work with Carl is very endearing and also something you don't really see with other associates of his. This mutual respect between CJ and Woozie develops early on and is both admirable and refreshing, leading the two to work together when Carl arrives in San Fierro midway through the game. In an exciting set of missions, CJ helps Woozie take down the Da Nang Boys, a rival faction within the San Fierro Triads, with the final mission of the set, the Da Nang Thang, being the best of the bunch. The mission begins with you in the gunner seat of a helicopter that passes over the Da Nang Boys' boat, allowing you to take out many enemies from the sky. After getting shot down by an RPG in one of the coolest set pieces in the game, CJ must then swim to the freighter before boarding. Once on board, you have the choice to stealthily or openly take out any gang members you didn't finish off while on the helicopter, as you fight your way to free the Vietnamese refugees locked in a container. This culminates in a showdown with the Da Nang Boys' leader, the Snakehead, who you duel with on the bridge of the ship using a katana before escaping back to shore. What stands out to me is how this mission makes you feel like you are invincible. Whether it's surviving the helicopter crash, single-handedly wiping out a rival gang, or defeating the Snakehead at his own game, it feels like nothing can stop CJ from reaching his goals. It's also a feel-good mission that sees you cement your trust and relationship with Woozie, as well as put a stop to the Da Nang Boys' reprehensible human trafficking. It's my pick for the best mission in San Fierro, and is a great example of why San Andreas is so memorable. For CJ, as we will discuss later on, redemption is a major part of his character arc through Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Whether it's returning to Los Santos for the first time, making a success out of the Doherty garage after being duped by Catalina, or saving Mad Dog's life in Las Venturas, CJ is constantly trying to make up for mistakes he's made in his past. As things begin to look up for him due to the success of the Four Dragons Casino and his relationships with the Triads, Carl looks to return to Los Santos again, this time to set up a new home base in order to save his brother Sweet from prison. In his preparations, he learns that Mad Dog's mansion was given to a dope dealer named Big Papa after the rapper succumbed to drugs following his fall from grace. Frustrated at Mad Dog's weakness, and likely at himself for playing a role in Dog's descent into addiction, CJ tells his crew that they're going back home before we cut to a scene of Carl and the Triads in a plane. They plan to use the element of surprise to invade Dog's mansion, wipe out the Vagos inside, and reclaim the Vinewood home for themselves. Everything goes according to plan, and after firefights both on the roof and inside the mansion, Big Papa is found. He attempts to escape, but CJ chases him down and ends his life, successfully reclaiming the mansion for Dog and his crew. For me, this mission has always felt special as it feels like CJ is back in control of his life for the first time since his arrest back in the Green Saber. It's symbolic that he should take over Mad Dog's mansion, as it is not only a clear reflection of his newfound status, but it overlooks the city of Los Santos that he will soon re-control. Even the way he takes over the mansion is representative of his new attitude and abilities, as covertly invading from the skies is a far cry from the in-your-face gangbanger mentality he displayed earlier in the game. Now, after diligently working to build his life back up, CJ is able to return to Los Santos as a bona fide success. He no longer has to fear the oppressive thumb of Crash, and answers to no one he doesn't want to. In this moment, in his eyes, CJ has finally made it, which makes this as feel-good a moment as there is in the entire game. But I must also give praise for how empowering this mission is, as you can't help but feel like a total badass as you parachute over the Vinewood sign. Hard as the Vagos try, CJ is just too skilled and too tough to handle when he arrives, as he lays waste to dozens of gang members. Similarly, once inside the mansion, CJ destroys Big Papa's entire crew, not needing stealth as he previously did in the mission Mad Dog's Rhymes. For me, this highlights CJ's progression, as he's not the same CJ he once was. This CJ is a true leader and a fully realized self-made man who will not be denied what he wants, as Big Papa tragically finds out. The Green Saber is one of the best missions in San Andreas for how dramatically it shifts the direction of the story while beautifully setting up the rest of the game. Not only are your ties severed with two of your closest OGs by the end of the mission, but Sweet is put in jail and you are at the mercy of Crash in a mysterious remote town. All the hard work you put in to reunite the families and gain gang territory from the Ballas and Vagos is undone, and any sense of progression is halted as you reach absolute rock bottom. With uncertainty looming overhead, CJ is forced to contemplate the fact that Grove Street families may be dead for good, and the only silver lining is that you gain a newfound level of respect and trust for Caesar, who was the one to tip you off about seeing Smoke and Ryder with the car seen at the site of your mother's death. The first time I played Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, I was 10 years old, and my brain was not ready for the twist this mission threw at me. I wasn't able to pick up on all the foreshadowing, such as Tenpenny stopping by Ryder's house to pick up drugs, or the fact that Big Smoke seemed to be working for Crash, which is why Pulaski and Tenpenny are frequently seen leaving Smoke's house when CJ arrives. On top of that, both characters being Grove Street OGs made it easy to find Smoke and Ryder likable, especially compared to Sweet, who seemed to constantly give CJ a hard time. Over the course of many missions, you form a bond with these characters as you slowly bring Grove Street families back to prominence, but just when you are at the height of your newfound success, Smoke and Ryder betray the Johnson brothers by selling them out to Tenpenny and the Ballas. It's truly a heartbreaking mission as CJ watches his entire life crumble before his eyes. The homies he had been so excited to see after 5 long years turn out to be responsible for his mother's death, which is the entire reason Carl returned to Los Santos in the first place. You can feel the panic in CJ's voice when he realizes he may lose another sibling in Sweet, and it's as tense a moment as there is in the entire game as CJ races to save Sweet under the bridge. Upon arrival, CJ goes berserk after seeing his wounded brother and realizing he has nothing left to lose, taking down wave after wave of the Ballas until the police eventually show up. It's a freeing experience as you let the pain of betrayal fuel the rage you need to go on your baller killing spree. It's an iconic mission that I honestly could put as high as first on this list, and a pivotal moment that helps define the legacy of San Andreas. When you have a story as well crafted as what we see in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the pressure and expectations for the game to deliver a fulfilling ending are as high as they can get. Nothing could be worse than a phenomenal game with hours upon hours of side content and over 100 main storyline missions being marred by a controversial or disappointing ending. If Game of Thrones has shown us anything, it's that it doesn't matter how much quality you deliver throughout your story, because if the journey doesn't end on a logical, satisfying note, the reputation of the entire work is in jeopardy. Thankfully, GTA San Andreas has one of the most gratifying final missions in all of gaming, where everything set up by the Green Saber early on is paid off. The mission sees CJ on his own break into Big Smoke's crack fortress via a stolen SWAT tank before fighting his way up several floors to find Smoke playing video games. After a brief confrontation, the two ultimately have a firefight resulting in Smoke's death. Bittersweet as taking revenge on an old friend is, Carl has virtually no time to contemplate his actions as Officer Tenpenny suddenly appears to put CJ's life back in danger. Thinking quickly on his feet, Carl creates a distraction and narrowly escapes alive, chasing Tenpenny down, who had escaped in a fire truck. Sweet, who was waiting outside the crack fortress, hops aboard the truck to ensure Tenpenny can't escape, while CJ follows close behind. After a lengthy chase sequence which sees CJ save Sweet from falling off the fire truck, Tenpenny eventually crashes off the bridge overlooking Grove Street. The resulting crash leads to severe internal injuries that wind up killing Tenpenny, saving the Johnson boys from having to kill him themselves. Among the reasons that make this such a gratifying final mission is the fact that everything is able to come full circle for CJ and his friends. Big Smoke and Tenpenny are dead, effectively ending Crash and the riots destroying Los Santos. The crack palace responsible for flooding the streets with cocaine is destroyed in a giant fire. Grove Street families are back on top as the #1 gang in San Andreas, with new associates like Caesar, The Truth, Mad Dog, and Woozy. And there is a happy ending for CJ, who has fully redeemed himself for running away 5 years ago, overcoming the tragedies caused by Tenpenny's relentless lust for money and power along the way. And it's worth commenting that the mission itself is very memorable, filled with fantastic set pieces and arguably the most challenging firefight in the game. Ascending the crack fortress makes CJ feel like a one-man army as he annihilates the various gangsters on his way to take down Smoke. Chasing Tenpenny serves as both an exhilarating final chase, as well as a chance to drink in the atmosphere of a rioting Los Santos one last time as you take a quick trip around the hood. And even the beginning where you break into the Crack Palace is a nice unique set piece we hadn't seen prior to that point in the game. Given the length and significance of this mission, I could go on and on, but suffice to say that End of the Line is one of the greatest missions in GTA history. One of the central themes presented in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is that of revenge. Whether it's OG Loke chasing down and murdering a fellow prison inmate for damaging his reputation as a gangster, Zero taking down Berkeley's mail-order service for humiliating him, or CJ taking out Big Smoke and Ryder for betraying Grove Street families, there is no shortage of examples of revenge-motivated missions in this game. We've already talked about Woozy on this list and how he is my favorite of CJ's associates, which is why the revenge you get by completing breaking the bank at Caligula's is so rewarding. As the Triads moved into Las Venturas, the Sindaco family that owns 1/3 of the Caligula's casino were determined to push Woozy out of the strip. By creating counterfeit chips and constantly causing trouble for Woozy, CJ was eventually called in to intervene. Carl, being offered a share in the casino, agrees to help deal with the problem, with the two eventually resolving to send a message to all the mob families that you don't mess with the Four Dragons casino. This manifested itself into a heist that would see the mob influence in Las Venturas dwindle, while netting CJ $100,000 and a ton of respect. But for as much as I love the context around this mission, the reason it's so high is because it arguably has the most diverse set of tasks to complete in the entire game. There's not a dull moment in this mission as you bounce from objective to objective, executing the plan you've spent most of your time in Las Venturas setting up. Whether it's disguising yourself as a Caligula's employee to sneak in undetected, knocking out the vault guards by throwing tear gas down a vent, or using a forklift to forcibly raise a garage door so the rest of your team can get inside, there are so many tasks unique to this mission. You have multiple gunfights, a section where you must destroy some backup generators, and a rooftop escape that sees you parachute your way to another rooftop that has a helicopter waiting for you. And it's not that I just enjoy the complexity of this mission for the sake of complexity, it's that all of these elements make sense for the mission. It feels good to see the preparation done in missions like Dam and Blast and Up and Away pay off as you successfully lead your allies through the plan. Whereas previous missions ultimately ended up being all about CJ, this final assault on Caligula's feels like a true team effort, making it all the more satisfying when you succeed. While I can't quite call it a perfect mission, it gets awfully close to being one and appropriately caps off the best set of missions in the entire game. At this point, I need to admit that the PS2 era of the Grand Theft Auto series is easily my favorite era of the franchise. While I still love GTA 4 and 5, they have a much different feel than Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas that I'm not quite as fond of. Perhaps it was the push towards a more realistic engine, or something else that didn't quite land with me, but I've always preferred the somewhat cartoony nature of the PS2 GTA era. These games have serious, deep stories that need to be balanced with some lighthearted, over-the-top gameplay in order to not take themselves too seriously and stay true to their satirical nature. Fortunately for San Andreas, despite its heavy themes, the unrealistic gameplay always makes the game zany and fun to explore and mess around in. And of all the missions in the game, no mission captures that atmosphere more than the one called Black Project. This is a mission given to you by the Truth, who is upset with Carl for working with the government agent Mike Torino. He wants you to invade the heavily guarded military research facility, Area 69, and steal the secret project they have stored there in an underground bunker. After getting dropped off on the outskirts of the base by the Truth, CJ invades the compound with the goal of sneaking inside as quietly as possible. As with other missions in the game, if you get spotted by guards or simply choose not to use stealth, you can blast your way inside, which in this case may actually be more appropriate considering you will be forced to slaughter every soldier you encounter once inside anyway. After massacring loads of enemies on your way to the underground lab, you receive a keycard before making your way to the launch bay to discover a shiny new jetpack waiting for you. Carl immediately steals it, flies directly into the sky, and escapes back to the Truth to deliver the goods. I can't even begin to describe how much fun I have playing this mission, and how amazing the reward you receive for completing it is. For me, the jetpack is the single most fun vehicle to use in all of Grand Theft Auto, and it's a huge factor for me to come back and play San Andreas time and time again. Despite getting it fairly late into the game, the jetpack, which you can find at Verdant Meadows after the mission is complete, totally changes how you can get around the world. It makes getting collectibles easier, and even makes certain missions later on a breeze when they would otherwise be somewhat challenging. And if you enjoy playing with cheats, having it in the early game is absolutely broken and leads to a really leisurely playthrough. But apart from how incredible the jetpack is, this is another example of a great mission that changes quite a bit depending on what style you use to complete it. It's also one of the few missions in the game that I feel like you can't be reckless about how you approach the enemies, unlike other missions where you can literally stand out in the open absorbing damage while shredding people with bullets. As I said before, you can still go in guns blazing if you want, it just requires a little more caution than other missions in the game, which is a challenge I appreciate. The fight down to the launch bay really feels like a gauntlet, and the feeling of rocketing out of such a chaotic situation is a relief few other missions can produce. Just like Up and Away, the lack of emotional impact or importance to the overall story for me holds it back from being number one, but in terms of sheer entertainment value, this may be the best mission in the game. Whenever I'm thinking about my number one pick for any ranking list, a question I will ask myself is, if I only had one mission or one moment to show someone in order to convince them to play the game I'm talking about, what mission or moment would I choose? It'd have to be a mission in this case that really encapsulated everything that is great about San Andreas. It would need to capture not only the atmosphere and tone of the game, but the characters' personalities, gameplay, and more to really give someone a good idea of what they're getting themselves into. Luckily, San Andreas has so many incredible moments that I would likely still pick a mission that does the game justice, even if I wasn't 100% confident with my pick. Thankfully, however, I believe there is a clear best mission in the game that sums up everything that makes Grand Theft Auto San Andreas the masterpiece that it is. Reuniting the families is the second to last mission of the first act of the game, but it could have easily been the finale with the amount of action and drama that's packed into this epic operation. After many hours of gameplay where CJ runs around with his various Grove Street OGs, building the families back up to their former glory and making a name for himself in Los Santos, Sweet determines it's time to put an end to all the base slinging in the streets. The splintered Grove Street families agree to meet at a motel, with Sweet being the representative, and CJ, Smoke, and Ryder serving as backup in case things go south. Inevitably, things do go wrong as a Los Santos Police Department helicopter appears out of nowhere, telling everyone to stay where they are. In a panic, Smoke and Ryder bail as CJ goes inside to save Sweet from the ambush. Along the way, Carl is forced to take out the SWAT forces that descend from the rooftops and litter the hallways of the motel. After a few minutes of intense battling, CJ eventually links back up with Sweet as they escape to the roof. Unfortunately, the helicopter is still outside and focused on the Johnson brothers, prompting CJ to shoot the copter down. Sweet and CJ then run into the street before Ryder and Smoke show face to pick the brothers back up. The police, not ready to give up, lead the Grove Street OGs through the most intense car chase sequence in the game, as CJ takes out dozens of cops, some of which even jump on Sweet's car. As Smoke tries everything in his power to evade the cops, he finds himself stuck in an alley head-to-head with an oncoming helicopter. Unable to back up, he throws caution to the wind and steps on the gas, driving underneath the helicopter before ghost-riding the car through a billboard straight into an oil tanker on the highway. Breathless and amazed they survived, the Grove Street OGs decide to split up as they don't want to get arrested after somehow miraculously escaping the law. Aside from displaying how cinematic the game can be via one of the best set pieces in the game, this mission does such a great job at showcasing the characters and story of San Andreas as well. You can see CJ's sense of determination and loyalty that defines him when he sets out to save Sweet. You can see Ryder's insecurity and lack of resolve when shit hits the fan. You see Sweet's leadership, desire, and passion to clean up the hood from the beginning cutscene. And even Big Smoke's unassuming nature is captured perfectly here throughout. It helps that the objective of the mission is so clear that even if you had never played the game before, reuniting the families would quickly make you understand what the goal of Act 1 was for Grove Street. This is supposed to be the payoff for all the hard work CJ and the OGs have put in, and the gameplay certainly reflects that. Compared to the missions played earlier in the game, only Just Business even comes close to the intensity that this mission presents. It's a big jump up from shooting bottles at Emmett's place or bouncing lowriders in Unity with Caesar, with a big emotional impact to boot. It's hard not to feel close to people you've been through some stuff with, and narrowly surviving death is about as crazy as it gets, which makes the betrayal in the Green Saber the next mission all the more painful. Reuniting the families truly gives you everything you could want in a Grand Theft Auto mission, which is why it stands at the top of my list of the best missions in San Andreas. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed my list of the top 10 missions in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So many of these missions are so good that I could honestly rearrange their order a bit or swap in a few of my honorable mentions and still agree with the list in front of me. Unfortunately, as I mentioned before, there are over 100 missions in the game, meaning some great missions like St. Mark's Bistro, Freefall, Interdiction, and Just Business had to be left off. I'm sure as a result I've left out someone's favorite mission, and if that's the case, be sure to let me know in the comments and tell me what you think of my list. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to stay tuned for my next video.